Join spiritual feminist and empowerment coach Joni Advent Maher for Trust Your Sacred Feminine Flow. Listen in for intimate conversations about money, transformation, and feminine sovereignty. And now, your host, Joni Advent Maher.
Welcome to Trust Your Sacred Feminine Flow. I'm your host, Joni Advent Maher, spiritual midwife and transformational guide. Happy anniversary. This is the second anniversary for the podcast, and I'm so excited you're here with me today to celebrate. So a few years back, I was reflecting and realized that for me, the definition of happiness at that point was knowing what I needed to do, knowing that I was capable of doing it, and that I had everything I needed in order to accomplish it. And this revelation came to me, I believe, when I was preparing to cook a meal or do something around the house, and I realized that at those times when I had the clarity and I was clear on my objective of what I was going to cook, and when I had the confidence to prepare that particular meal, and when I had all of the ingredients available for me, then I could, and that includes not just the food ingredients, but also the time and the energy, that I could just relax and really enjoy myself and be present with whatever it was I was tending to. For example, cooking a meal. So since then, I've come to realize that this isn't just the recipe for happiness, this idea of the clarity, the ingredients or what it takes, as well as our ability or confidence to accomplish it. But it's really also the recipe, in my experience, for success. And it really is the definition or the indication of feeling empowered. And when we feel empowered, we are able to take step-by-step action towards our success, and it is a joy-filled process. It's the essence of happiness, as I said, for me. And the reason I bring this up today is because so many of us still struggle with that sense of empowerment in our lives, particularly when it comes to the deepest desires of our heart and soul. So whether it is creating a success we haven't known yet, or sharing our work in the world in a more profound and impactful way, or creating a partnership in our relationship or relationships that are supportive and meaningful, coming to a sense of empowerment always requires that we have first, the initial clarity, B, the resources that can support us in our vision and our objective, and C, the wherewithal and the capacity to follow through on it. So while that is simple, it's not always easy. For many of us, we have places where old childhood experiences have left us frozen or immobilized or confused. We have experiences that are buried deep that manifest as fear that keeps us stuck and frozen and limited, and not living either the most full version of our lives or even inhabiting the most full version of ourselves. And that is a big deal. And part of why it's a big deal is because for most of us, we often don't realize that there is this subterranean fear or this subterranean trauma or wound that is operating, and we have this overlay of belief, this overlay of self-judgment or criticism that tells us there's something wrong because we're not able to achieve success in the way that we want to, or if we compare ourselves with others, then we give ourselves a hard time for not being where someone else is. And the fact of the matter is, oftentimes, as I said, there are these places that are frozen within us, and if we have the capacity to dive deep with our kind of inner awareness and discover where those are, then we can address them. And that's part of why I'm breaking this down in this way of first looking at where it is that we need clarity, and then second, looking at the place of, do we have the resources? Do we have everything we need in place in order to achieve or accomplish whatever it is? And then lastly, do we have the ability? And I will say personally, in my own experience, for a long time, I would have the vision, I would have clarity there, but doubt or fear or constriction would come up that would either inhibit my ability to access the resources I needed to create my vision, or there would be a belief that I wasn't worthy of creating my vision, or that was for other people but not for me. I don't know if you've ever had thoughts like that. It also place or it can show up in relationship to feeling supported. Like, this is the place in this recipe where feeling supported by others, feeling supported by the universe, feeling supported to pursue your vision can show up. And for many of us, we are left lacking there. We either did not have positive reflection about who we were and what we were capable of. We did not have people championing our success. We did not have people that were reflecting our gifts and saying, wow, this is really needed. You really should go out and share this with the world. For many of us, that was not the case. And if that's true for you, it would not surprise me at all if there is still some frozen or stuckness around how you manifest support in your life. That certainly had been my history. And similarly, with the idea of having self-confidence or belief in your ability, when I was a young girl, there were many places that from the outside might look pretty straightforward and easy, where I just felt completely incapable. There was an impotence that grew out of some of my early childhood experiences that left me feeling powerless in ways that were not serving me and that were not really rooted in my true capability. But it was not until I was able to go underneath the surface of those lies, of the whole shtick about being worthy or not worthy, or deserving or not deserving, that I could really get to the root of the issue, the fear, the deep underlying fear, and then start to work with it and to transform it. So it brings me to this memory of when I was a senior in high school. We each had to choose a quote that was our quote for the yearbook. And the quote that I chose was, "No matter how dark, one who strives can find the light." And while I am not a huge proponent of striving these days, the essence of the quote, which is really about persistence, it's about holding a vision and persisting in finding a way, I can fully stand behind. And I love my younger self for choosing that quote, because I can see that in her desire and in her vision for knowing it can be better than this, that was part of the lamplight that kept me searching and putting one foot in front of the other. And so I offered this to you, my dear beloved, this idea that transformation is possible when we have the vision in our hearts and we persist, when we don't let go of our heart's deepest desire and dream for ourselves, knowing that that can happen for you. And it may be something you're already pursuing, or it may be something that has been sitting on the shelf and put in the someday category. And there are times when we do need to gestate our dreams, and when it does take time for them both to be fertilized and to mature, to be ready to be birthed, or to be ready for us to take certain action on them. But there are other times when that someday is an indication that we are stuck and that there is that fear or that place of immobilization. So, my dear, I want you to consider that if you had all the support that you needed and then some, and if you had full confidence and knowledge that you could succeed, what dream or vision would you be pursuing right now in your life? Let yourself really open up and dream. What would you be pursuing for yourself these days? Just take a moment with that. And as you get clear on that, I invite you to make a promise to yourself that no matter what the pace, that you will hold on to that vision and find a way to keep pursuing that in your life. So, in honor of the second anniversary of the podcast, next week on the new moon, I am holding a free virtual event, Sovereign, Wise, and Wealthy. And in this event, we're going to explore resources, and the two main resources that we as women often overlook and don't fully utilize in our lives, because I want you to be able to pursue this dream. And part of doing that requires accessing the full support and all of the resources you need to make that happen. So I'll be sharing those two key resources as well as two practices to support you in accessing them in your life. So if you would like to join me, beloved, you can go to sovereignwiseandwealthy.com and register. We'll be meeting on Wednesday, June 13th, the new moon. And if you're not able to join us live, you can access the recording afterward. So, beloved, this is vitally important. It is vitally important that you heed the call of those heart and soul desires, and that you pursue those in your life, because when you blossom into your fullness of joy and fulfillment, you cannot help but share that vibration of lightness, of fullness, of generosity of spirit with those around you. And I think we all know the world could really use more of that. The world could really use more women who are fulfilled and empowered and living their dreams, because when we do it, we give our children permission to do it. We give our partners permission to do it. We give our sisters and our elders permission to do it. And this world could use more of that. So as we bring this to a close, my dear, I want to thank you for taking this time with me and for being a part of this journey over the last 2 years. It has been my overwhelming pleasure. And I will tell you, this is one of the dreams that I created, this podcast. And I had to go through each of the various steps to get here. And I'm telling you, it has been delicious and a joy. And I wish this for you as well. So, once again, if you'd like to join me on the 13th, you can do so at sovereignwiseandwealthy.com. And until next time, beloved, always trust what your heart knows.
Thanks for listening to Trust Your Sacred Feminine Flow with Joni Advent Maher. If you like what you heard, the best compliment you can give us is to share our podcast with a friend and subscribe, rate, and review our podcast at iTunes.